Hello, thank you for watching my video. This video is a little unusual because I'm on a scooter. I actually hate scooters, so normally I don't ride them. Having said that, I have owned a few in the past and I've ridden many others, particularly in my youth, but they're really not my cup of tea. I'm on this particular scooter because it was loaned to me by relatives during my vacation for a few days, for which I'm grateful, and don't take any negative comments I might make about this scooter um, as a reflection of that generosity. So this is a 109cc air-cooled single overhead cam, single cylinder engine with fuel injection and an automatic centrifugal clutch. It produces 8.6 horsepower at 7,500 RPM and 6.6 pounds-foot of torque at 5,750 RPM. The frame is an underbone design made from laser welded pressed steel. The suspension is 31mm telescopic fork at the front with 3.5 inches of travel, and at the rear unit swing arm with 3.3 inches of travel. The front brake is a hydraulic disc brake with a 200mm disc and a single piston caliper. The rear is a 130mm drum brake. There's cast aluminium spoke wheels, 16 inches at the front, 14 inches at the rear, and the tires it's running are an 80/90 at the front and a 1990 at the back. It is, let's see, 220 pounds dry weight. The wheelbase is 50.4 inches or 1,280 millimeters. Seat height is 30.9 inches. Has underseat storage that can hold an average size helmet, let's say a 3/4 design. My 3XL full face does not fit. It has a fuel capacity of 4.9 liters or 1.07 gallons. If you're an American, that's 1.2 US gallons. It has a claimed top speed of 88 kilometers per hour or 55 miles per hour, which is absolute nonsense. I've tested it and I'll come back to that. Fuel range is 123 miles per gallon or 197 kilometers. And technology, it has PGM-FI fuel injection and a smart key fob with proximity sensor, which I find particularly irritating. Okay, this is how you start a Honda Vision. It's the most ridiculous starting system I've ever seen. Keyless ignition. Number 1, press button, 3 seconds, wait for green light. Number 2, press this button. Number 3, make sure the kickstand is up. Number 4, depress the the left brake lever. Number 4, press the power button. Didn't work because I mistouched that. Start again. So you press the button, look at the kickstand, press that. I've got to turn this, and then press that button again, and voila. Again. So 1, you get kickstand, button, turn, brake lever, button. Right, so I'll tell you a little bit more about this bike and my impression of it. Let's start with the ergonomics. It's quite tiny. I am 5'10". I'm about 175 pounds, give or take, a pound or two, but I still feel enormous on it. Fortunately, there's a flat seat, so I am able to slide back, give myself more room. I did carry my brother on the back of the bike, however, at that point I wasn't able to, and so it became a little bit more uncomfortable. You can see my knees are pretty much pressed right up against the wall at the front, so if I can't move backwards, then the only thing I can do is spread my knees. Not that it's a long reach to the bars. The engine is absolutely gutless. The bike is a snail. If you want to go faster, you need acceleration, you're going to need both patience and perseverance. It doesn't have any useful power in the top end, or in the middle, or in the low end of the rev range. If you're in a city or an urban setting of some sort, you can easily filter. It's quite maneuverable, but if you're on a road with fast-flowing traffic or a highway, I wouldn't recommend it. I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable taking this bike onto a highway, given how little acceleration it has. I'd be very concerned about the vehicles behind me when I'm merging on. It has a claimed top speed, as I said, of 88 kilometers per hour or 55 miles per hour, but I don't believe it. I've done a test run. I've had a couple of attempts to actually try and establish the speed, and you'll see that later in this video. You're not going to achieve it if you weigh 175 pounds anyway. So the brakes were rather weak. I can't really give them a fair assessment though, because the front brake pads definitely need to be replaced on this bike. It does have linked brakes, which I don't like. So that means if I'm applying the front brake, I'm also applying the rear and vice versa. That rear drum brake on its own isn't really sufficient for a man of my weight, but the bike only weighs 220 pounds and it has very little in the way of acceleration or top speed, as I mentioned, so it's not necessarily a problem. Suspension isn't really sufficient to gain for a rider of my weight. I use a bolder suspension travel over bumps and ruts. It's not really suitable for anything other than smooth city streets. Having said that, it is probably the best scooter suspension I've ever ridden on. It still puts it near the bottom when I compare it to all the motorcycles that other types that I've ridden in my life, but compared to other scooters, to most of the scooters I've ridden. Part of the reason for that is the larger wheels. The majority of the scooters I've ridden in past have had 10-inch wheels, quite small. It's tended to make them unstable and a bit twitchy, and prone to oversteering at higher speeds. And they have generally been quite unstable, like I said, over bumps, ruts, or uneven surfaces. This bike with its larger wheels, it tends to handle such road surfaces better. This is its proper environment, the city. Smooth tarmac. The frame of this bike up. This is a Yamaha. I think it's an FZS. It's a baby brother, one of the many baby brothers of my MT-07. Anyway, so this bike, it likes smooth surfaces, like the surfaces you see here. What it does not like, what it's not suitable for, is any sort of rough ground. That is the sessions. So as I said, it doesn't like rough ground. It doesn't have power. So here I'm going to take it up a very steep hill, very, very rough ground. This tarmac is to a motocross track, I think. The bike's absolutely shaking itself to bits. Anyway, after this, I think I will talk to you about speed, which we've already covered most of the other items that I wanted to discuss. Oh, maybe I should just touch on mileage. Yeah, you wouldn't think you would get very far on a single gallon of fuel, but after a couple of days of riding this bike, it's still showing, the fuel gauge was still showing that it was full. So I got suspicious. I did stop at a petrol station. I had a look inside the tank and it was pretty much almost full. So I topped it up, but basically a single gallon will take you from here to infinity. Welcome to Fort George, by the way. I'll just pause here for a moment and let you have a look at the bike. It's not bad for a scooter, but again, not my cup of tea. So I've been alluding to the slow speed of this bike for a while. I'm going to now quantify that. This is a 500 meters straight. I'm testing it on 4.5 kilometers. It's more than enough distance to test its acceleration and top speed. So the fastest I got was 76 kilometers per hour or 47 miles per hour, and that took 25 seconds, which is staggeringly slow. I don't want you to think, if you're not used to riding small bikes, that small bikes need to be this slow. I've ridden many small bikes that were considerably faster. My first proper motorcycle when I was a youth was a 1978 Yamaha RS, which is a 100cc two-stroke that made 10 horsepower, so it's comparable. It had a top speed of 110 kilometers per hour, or 68 miles per hour. I had a 1991 RXS 100 from Yamaha, which could do 116 kilometers per hour, or 72 miles per hour. I also had a 15 horsepower MZRT 125, which is 125cc, which put out 15 horsepower. My brother had a Honda CB100N from 1981, which made 11 horsepower. Both of those bikes can get between 65 to 68 miles per hour. So there's no excuse for this Vision to be so slow. So here I'm taking it for a run with my friend on his Derbi GPR50, which was originally a 50cc two-stroke. This one has a 90cc Malossi kit, and you can see he absolutely hates this bike. I was in full tuck, giving it everything, and I had a head start. Anyway, so would I recommend this bike? No, not particularly. If you're going to buy it, who would I suggest this bike is for? I wouldn't recommend it for beginners, not if you're aspiring to learn the skills that you need to move up and ride larger, more capable motorcycles. You'd be better off buying yourself a cheap, used 125cc motorcycle with a manual gearbox. Something like a Honda CG 125 or a YBR 125, far nicer than this. Let alone something like a, I don't know, MT 125 or Yamaha R125. I also wouldn't recommend it for experienced riders looking for a cheap commuter to get to work if they have to drive on fast-flowing roads or highways to get there. It's also not suitable for riders living in rural areas because the suspension can't handle the surfaces. It's not for people who enjoy really aggressive, sporty scooters like the Italia Dragster. Really, it would be suitable for people living in large cities with smooth tarmac, just using it as a runabout or commuters to get to work. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you again.